Secret Chinese biolabs next door. It's now not happened just once, but twice, and owned by the same criminal connected to the CCP. Congressman Kevin Kiley is a Republican member of the U.S. House of Representatives. He represents California's 3rd Congressional District, and he joins us now. Congressman, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Will. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you. A few years ago, I think many of us remember this story out of California, a small town in California where, as described, a secret Chinese biolab was discovered with hundreds of vials containing things like HIV and Ebola, COVID-19, thousands of genetically engineered mice. And now, just recently, we've seen the same man behind that lab discovered to have had one in a garage in Las Vegas. What's happening here?
Well, it's a good question, and we don't really know the answer to that. I mean, the initial lab that you referred to, discovered in Reedley, California, just kind of by happenstance, a local code inspector saw like a hose that was coming out of the back of some abandoned building. And they go inside, and there's all kinds of Chinese nationals in there wearing masks. There's the transgenic mice that you refer to. And then it's just oozing with vials of these dangerous pathogens, you know, malaria, HIV, COVID. There's even a freezer labeled Ebola. And yet the CDC refused to investigate this for months and months and months. California refused to investigate it for months and months and months. When they finally showed up, they did a very shoddy job. They didn't even test a lot of what was in these vials. Some of the vials had indecipherable code written on it as to what was in there. The CDC didn't bother to test it. Then there was even this freezer with Ebola labeled on it. Granted, Ebola has a 50% fatality rate, and it's not particularly transmissible, but we have reason to believe that in the Wuhan lab, they're doing gain and function research to make it more transmissible. And the long story short, the biggest upshot of this is that after in the House, we did an investigation, which I requested, they concluded that we don't know how many other such labs are out there. And now, sure enough, we found that there was at least one other one run by the exact same people.
Let's start with why there's so little interest. Why was there so little interest from local authorities? And then most concerningly, why was there so little interest from the CDC?
Well, the local authorities actually were very on top of it, and they were begging the CDC to become interested. But you know, this was the Biden CDC. I don't know. They had other priorities. You know, this is the same CDC that decided that you know, young children, toddlers needed to wear masks during the COVID years, and all of these other things that were supposedly in the interest of public health. And yet here you had an illegal lab sitting in the United States, run by individuals who are connected to the CCP. There was the main guy was this international fugitive. It's like something out of a Tom Clancy novel. And he was getting payments from Chinese banks. And by the way, they claimed that the whole purpose of this thing was to sell these test kits. But in fact, they were just selling kits that were counterfeits from China. And so that's one of the things that the House report concluded is we don't know what the heck they were up to because there doesn't appear to be any legitimate purpose of the operations here.
It surely seems like an administration that was entirely focused on transmissible diseases and the treatment or prevention of that through vaccine would be also interested in ensuring that it is not spread or spilled out of some lab in the middle of some small town in California. That's completely perplexing why it wouldn't be a priority of the CDC. Let's go into the details a little more of these labs. So you mentioned it. This man whose name is Jia Bai Zhu, also known as a.k.a. Jesse Zhu or a.k.a. David He, was a fugitive, as I understand it, from Canada. He was wanted for stealing $330 million in intellectual property from the United States of America. He owned this warehouse you described a little bit earlier in California. And now, just recently, in 2026, this home has been raided, a residential garage in Las Vegas, and the property is registered to the same LLCs used by Zhu in California. So who is this man, Jesse Zhu?
Yeah, so he has many aliases, which you just listed. Now, he is actually in federal custody right now. So sometime after the Reedley lab was discovered, he was indicted. However, he seems to have been running the Vegas lab from behind bars, and his associates and partner were the ones who were operating it, and it was registered, as you said, to the same LLC. And so this raises the question, like, we now know there were two of these. How many more might be out there with direct links to the CCP, especially given we know they're trying to, infiltrate the United States in terms of buying up housing, buying up agriculture, getting their materials into our classrooms. And now we know they have secret labs that are, hiding in plain sight in our communities. So I have a bill I've introduced on this to try to find these labs, detect them, root them out, and we really need Congress to act on this.
And how do we know, Congressman, that Zoo and these labs have some connection to the CCP?
Well, so Zoo has a long history with the CCP, which is documented in great detail in the report that the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party put together. And so, he left China some time ago, and he, got up to the trouble that you mentioned in Canada, where he had this several $100 million judgment against him. And then at some point, he fled Canada, was a fugitive in the United States, and set up this lab. But all the while he is running this lab, we know that he was receiving significant cash payments from banks in China. So he has this long history with the CCP, and then he continues to receive payments from China while he's running the lab.
Okay, so he's receiving payments from China. Chinese banking is very much not independent from the CCP. Now, you stated to me that the reason for existence of these labs that they maintained was that they were testing and selling COVID-19 testing kits. And
Correct.
yet that wouldn't, I would assume, require you to be maintaining bottles and vials of malaria and HIV and Ebola, just COVID-19. But weirdly as well, you said they weren't actually developing COVID-19 kits. They were buying blackmail COVID-19 kits from China, which, by the way, if that were the case as well, you would expect the money flow to be going from America to China, not China to Zhu and his labs back in America.
Yes, no, exactly right. So that's why the report that the House did concluded that there's no legitimate purpose of these labs. There's not even any criminal profit-driven purpose of these labs. And so that raises the question, why are they there? What is being planned? Why do we have some of the most dangerous pathogens in existence filled in hundreds of vials? Why do we have a freezer labeled Ebola? And why do there now appear to be many of them?
And what if I wanted to go into my garage tomorrow and begin to, for whatever reason, warehouse these incredibly dangerous pathogens that Hollywood's made movies about, wreaking havoc on society and creating the original pandemic? If I wanted to do so, is there anything to stop me from doing that? Can I just go on the internet and buy Ebola?
Well, there are licensure requirements, so that's why these labs were illegal. That's why the FBI has raided them. But the problem is we don't have the oversight that's needed in order to detect them where they exist. So we're trying to close that gap in this legislation I'm doing with Representative Costa by, for example, having reviewable logs from those who sell these dangerous pathogens so we can see who they're actually selling them to, and establishing a centralized sort of clearinghouse or strike force at the federal level so that we don't have this situation we saw in Reedley where the local officials are begging for help and the CDC just shrugs it off.
All right, so if I'm reading between the lines, what you're telling me is, yes, Will, you can go online and buy Ebola or HIV from a seller. That seller might require that I have a license. Don't know what kind of enforcement there is for that license. And there's no record keeping, you're telling me, from these sellers of these pathogens to show any type of enforcement authority that I am the one who bought these pathogens.
Right. Certainly not any kind that is reviewable, by regulators at the federal level. So if we have all of that data, then okay, we can see, gee, this is odd. There's all of these pathogens going to Vegas, or all of them going to Reedley, and we're also looking to get a better system for actually keeping track of all the high containment labs that are in existence.